Can you hear me now? Awesome! Woohoo! Yay! Awesome. All right. So, like I was trying to say, hope you guys had a great day so far, and hopefully it's been inspiring. Hopefully, maybe you want to do some live coding yourself. Maybe just learn code. We've had a lot of great technical speakers today, and hopefully, I will maybe wake you up a little bit because it's been a long day. It's been a fantastic long day. So today we're going to talk about some WordPress plugins. But before I do that, let me change to some slides. So, hello, my name is Mary Jo. I am a designer and developer for the web, and I tend to drink a lot of coffee. Yes, right, I drink a lot of coffee. I enjoy it. I'm from the Northwest. I have to drink coffee. It's just a requirement to be living here. All right, so first, before I actually get started, I like to do a little bit of a poll. So wherever it's at, I think it's over here. I want you to guys answer, have you heard of the technology called WordPress? Simply answer yes if you worked with it often. B, maybe you poked around a little bit. Or C, you're like, what the heck is WordPress? I don't even know. Hopefully we can get a poll up somewhere. But if not, that's all right. You can also leave it in the chat. It's all good. Yeah. So if you haven't heard of WordPress before, WordPress is a content management system that has been around a while. It is a way to manage content. So if you had a way to put articles together or blog or just want something to manage your content for your pages, that's where WordPress comes into play. It's been around since 2003 and was initially built to actually do blog posts. It's just a blog system. It actually has evolved since then, but it does have a bit of a small following. Actually, it has over 50% of the market in terms of global content management systems. So yeah, you've probably heard of it, and yeah, it's been around. But nowadays, people use it more than just blogging, than initially what it was set for. People use it for like e-commerce. Like if you wanted to sell t-shirts and have it automatically printed by a third-party company and have it ship out, if you want to, have it print your own stickers and have it sent out, there's that capability. If you want to deliver like online content, let's say you're just really passionate about helping others learn and actually grow what they do, you can make online courses with it. I actually even heard that it actually is guided missiles. Now, I wouldn't necessarily pick it out to actually guide missiles. It's not something I would think to use it for, but you know what? It's your choice. Do what you want, right? But in the end, it's just a great foundation to start a website. And most people pick it because they don't necessarily have a budget to actually build from nothing, build from scratch, or have the time to actually learn how to code and make it themselves. So that's where WordPress really is handy. So WordPress is built with PHP, which is a server technology that's been around for a while. I mean, a while. And also there's a database behind it. It's called MySQL. MySQL is just a relational database. I got it. And it just helps store, some data behind your website. It also has other things because it is a website, so you do need some like HTML, maybe a little bit of JavaScript, maybe style a little bit with some CSS. And actually it also has a little bit of jQuery, which is pretty fantastic. So you can do a little bit more than just whatever JavaScript could do. I mean, JavaScript can do everything too. You don't necessarily need jQuery. It's kind of a legacy thing. All right, I'm rambling. Let's get on. All right. So if you haven't noticed lately, there's actually a REST API that's in there now. Over the past few years, they've actually upgraded a little bit. So there's actually an endpoint for you to use and build upon. So if you want some Ajax going on, it's there for you, man. It's there. It's there for you to use. You can use any sort of JavaScript UI framework or library. It has capabilities to go farther and beyond than just using a PHP postback kind of mechanism. The world's your oyster, man. Try some WordPress. All right. So back in my day when I was learning about WordPress, before that, I was actually building a lot of stuff from scratch. I worked in corporate and other modern sized businesses that actually did everything from the ground up. I've done it with AngularJS, with some C# API and some SQL Server backend stuff. But in the end, I realized after a while that, I wanted to reach out and help other small businesses actually get up off the ground and make their websites better. Because if you know some websites, you go to them, you're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? I don't understand what you do. I don't understand what this is about. Who are you? Are you actually even a real business? So, I just thought, hey, I love to help people out in their small businesses. I also wanted to actually get some time back. I wanted to actually do more on the mountain in terms of snowboarding because I'm an avid snowboarder. But the mountain's starting to get full on the weekends. I need to do it during the weekday. Why not start my own business? I mean, really. I mean, it's just that easy, right? So when I first started looking at, what can I do for small businesses, I realized they didn't have the budget to actually start from the ground up. They needed a bit more. They needed something out of the box sooner than later and on a small budget. And so that's why I picked up WordPress. I picked up WordPress because it's a good starter spot to build a website on, as well as they can actually go in and use the UI because it's got a little bit intuitive. With everything, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but they can actually understand how to kind of work their own content. They can put in their own blog content. It's just a quick way to get a website going. So what you could do with WordPress is just stick with the UI part. You can actually just download it, just install it, and then start configuring things through their UI. You don't actually have to get too much into code these days if you didn't need to. There's a lot of things already set up. So if you really wanted to actually do something more than what's out of the box, a little bit more than blogging, a little bit more than pages, and maybe you can't find the little add-ons they have to actually make it a website that you really, really, really want to use, you try to look at the back end and see what's available. What can I do? How can I make this more unique or more something that I needed to use, or a client, or a customer, or a business? So once you kind of dig into the back end, you start looking at code, you're like, what the heck? What is all this code? There's things just poked around everywhere, it seems like. It can be overwhelming. I mean, you have to learn that secret handshake of the WordPress infrastructure to understand how this all flows together. And so you can think of it as your elbow is like connected to your earlobe. It does not make sense. You're like, what the heck? This does not make sense. So just think of WordPress has a structure like this. There's this main platform, and it's used to build and maintain content for pages and blog posts. And you can style that website with themes. You can make it visually pleasing. A theme may have a little bit extra more features to it than just making it look pretty and nice. But in the end, you have a good starter website already. You can improve upon that theme. Let's say you love the theme, but you just need a little bit extra. Well, you can make a child theme. A child theme is a way to extend that theme so it has a little bit more features that you want, a little more styles, maybe a little tweak to the layout that they did, just a little bit more. But if you really want some serious features, if you really want to customize it to what you want, then you're going to want to look at plugins. Because what's great with plugins, if you decide to change your theme, well, with a child theme, it's suddenly you have to now figure it out and hook it back up. With a plugin, it's self-contained. You don't actually have to worry about like, gosh, now I got to rejigger my stuff because that's how it works. It's all contained inside the plugin. And you can add as much features as you really want. So this is where you want to use plugins. So let's talk plugins. So a plugin is just, like I said, a little snippet of code that I just add, pretty much attach onto the website of WordPress. And now I have additional features that I could use. I can have fun with it all day long. Like I said with e-commerce, you can actually make it an e-commerce site just by adding a plugin. Most people use a WooCommerce plugin, but there's a lot of other plugins as well. But yeah, you just install it, turn it on, activate it, set a few features, bam. Now you're selling t-shirts. Everyone wants a t-shirt, so make a website with t-shirts. Maybe you want to make your site faster. And so use a caching plugin, right? You just put a caching plugin onto it, turn it on, configure maybe a little bit, boom, now your site's a little bit faster. Say that you want to actually get search engines to love your site, well, then you're probably going to need an SEO plugin. So then you just install another plugin. You hear this, right? Yeah, everything you need, just install a plugin. You need a plugin, you need a plugin, you need a plugin. Yeah, it's supposedly that simple, right? Well, that's where things get a little tricky, because if you don't do your little bit of research, if you just try to find any plugin that works that has the features you want it to work, it may not be reliable. Has that developer kept up actually with that plugin? Is it someone that is actually reliable? Is it someone that's not reliable, and suddenly now you have a hole in a security issue with your site. There's a lot of things you got to think about when you install plugins, and also, is it fast enough? Is it going to bog down your system? You know, you got to think about all these things. You can't just willy-nilly install plugins, and that's where people get in trouble with plugins. Is they just kind of find something that supposedly works and just plug it in and use it. Well, it's just not that simple. It could be that people don't actually keep their plugins up to date, or even WordPress up to date. And so that's where you get kind of these hacking scenarios where if someone finds a security hole, no one knows about it, and so then they don't actually update their plugin. Suddenly, they're vulnerable. So you got to be careful with plugins. But today we're going to learn how to build a WordPress plugin, because we want to make sure that one, we build it so it's secure and good, but as well as it's easy to maintain. It's easy to code, and we can figure out through all the weeding of how does WordPress work, and get the upper hand on getting started on a great WordPress plugin. We're going to figure out how to see how the earlobe is not connected to your elbow, that there is a method to the madness, and that there's a reason why to use a boilerplate when building your WordPress plugin. And I tend to talk really fast, and that's because I'm naturally nervous. Imagine that. So I'm going to try to slow it down a bit. They're telling me to slow it down, so we're going to get it really slow. No, we're not. But let's get into why a WordPress plugin is good to start with a boilerplate. Boilerplate? Boilerplate. Yes. So a boilerplate is just a template. It's like a already set up files and folder structure for you to actually build a plugin. So you know where everything goes. The structure is already there. There's a lot of great documentation in there, and it's a great starter point for you to get to where you need to be. Instead of trying to figure out all the little things that you may need to figure out, read all the little documentation. And just like Callow Creation said, it's like once you start reading some documentation, you read the next documentation, then you read the next, and suddenly you're just spending all your time reading documentation. And that's just not a great use of your time. There's a lot of things people have already done, and they've actually built into a boilerplate. So having a boilerplate is like getting a head start on your day. Like the previous night, you've set up your clothes to actually know what to wear the next day. Or if you're like some, you just jump out of bed and wear your pajamas all day. Right now you can pretty much wear anything as long as the top half is good, right? Come on now. So what else is a good reason why to use a boilerplate? It's also great to work on with a team because you know where everything's at. It's going to be structured in a way that you know where to go for stuff. If you need to update a database feature, you know where those files are. If you need to update HTML templates, you know where those are. You'll understand from looking at these general boilerplates that you'll see that there's a common way of doing things and that you just got to follow it, and it makes it so much easier. You can actually even come back from months later on, come back to your plugin and realize, oh, I know where everything's at because it's always the same. It's not like a mix of files and functions and who knows what's where. It's all organized for you. What's also great is that you can look at professionally built plugins, and they're generally built the same way. They have the same structure. So you don't have to figure out like everything yourself. You can actually go look at somebody else's code, reverse engineer it, see how they actually did what they wanted to do, and then implement it in yours. So that's what's fabulous about a boilerplate. It's just so much easier than starting from nothing. You have a great start and a great jump on getting something that you really want to get done. What's also the last factor that's also so great about a boilerplate is that you can expand upon that plugin. It's not a matter of like, okay, now I've kind of got myself into a corner. I don't know how I'm going to add more stuff to it. It's just like it's all kind of cluttered everywhere. Well, it's not. It's all organized, and there's always a spot for everything you want to put. It just easily expands as you add functionality to your plugin. It's pretty awesome. It's awesome. You should use it. So, boilerplates, what's out there, right? Well, there's many versions out there. A lot of versions out there. And the one version that I say to really use, the one that's actually the holy grail of all WordPress boilerplate plugin boilerplates out there is WP PB.me. And what does that stand for? Well, WordPress Plugin Boilerplate. Pretty simple to remember, right? So this is a great site because it is the leanest. This is the bare bones. This is just the right amount that you need to get started on a WordPress plugin. It has everything inside it. You don't need to add any more. You don't need to add any less. I mean, you could, tailor it to what you need, and we'll talk about that. But it's bare bones. And in the end, you can make this your own version to be what you need. That's what's awesome about it. It's not like it's like set in a way of you have to use this automated process, you have to use this kind of code, you have to use this kind of JavaScript framework. Nope, it is to the bare minimum, and then you build on top what you want. So to get started, what you do is you just fill out a few things. You put in your plugin name, kind of what a tag for it, in other words, a slug for it, some information about who you are, and then where to find you. So if people have troubles with your plugin, they can get, hey, help me out here, right? So it's just that easy. You fill out that form, you say build plugin. It'll actually go through a lot of little spots in the code and actually put in all the spots of placeholder of names and where your URL should be. And there you go. You've got a good starter plate for your plugin. But you may be asking yourself, what about Mary Jo? What about object-oriented programming? Is that possible? Well, it's built in, so it's all good. There's actually object-oriented programming in here. It's not a matter of like I'm going to throw functions everywhere and random PHP code and a little bit here, a little bit there, and let's just make a menage of HTML and PHP together. Nope, it's clean. It has a little bit of the view from MVC, so you can actually kind of make sure that your presentation, your view, your pretty is separated from the actual brains that you have behind it. And you actually can go the whole length. You can actually make it into a MVC sort of layout for your plugin. So it has this great starter point for you to build upon. And you'll keep hearing me say that. It's a great starter point. It's a great starter point. Keep that in mind. But you may also wonder, what about, well, we already knew about that. What about namespaces? So if you don't know about namespaces, and if you don't know about PHP, especially WordPress, is that things are organized that you may trip on each other. You may overwrite somebody else's information because you have to be pretty unique with your function names. You have to be pretty unique with your class names. Otherwise, your class dog might overwrite somebody else's class dog. So what's great with PHP now is that they have namespaces. So you can organize your stuff into, groupings, into like, this is my space. This is my space, not my space, but my space. And so that's where you organize all your content. And that is possible with this, with the boilerplate. You may also be thinking, Mary Jo, what about autoloading? Well, that's also available too. Because if you ever worked with PHP, they don't really know each other. It's not like you compile it like C# into a DLL and you have it all going on. They all like, we know each other exists. No, it's not like that at all. You have to pretty much tell like each other file that that, hey ecosystem, by the way, I have a new class, make sure you know about it. What's great with autoloading is that it'll actually autoload new files. And so then you can actually create a file for every class that you make. So it's pretty nice. But the thing is, with WPPB.me, they don't have those in place because it's a bit of a new feature, as well as they're trying to keep in line with WordPress, the core system themselves. So once you know WordPress core actually gets more updated to have namespaces autoloading, that site won't necessarily have it in place. But what's great is that there's people out there who are passionate about that and say, hey, if you really want it, if you really want to use it, here, I have a boilerplate for you. And so if you want that possibility in your plugin, I recommend going to MaryJoStaebler.com/WPBB. And that will get you to a version of a boilerplate that does have those in there. Now, I'm not saying it's mine, it's somebody else's, but it is a very valuable one that I use to actually build WordPress plugins. So that's definitely where you want to go to start off with your plugin, because it already has namespaces and autoloading. Unless that's not your thing, then you can always use that general boilerplate from before. So let's dig in a little bit what this boilerplate looks like. So the structure of the boilerplate has a general layout, and you'll see this commonly through all the boilerplates you see out there. You'll see the common template of structures of there's an admin, there's a front end, or public if you rather, there's a core, there's common, and we'll get into those. But you'll see this general layout from a plugin, and it has everything that you would ever need to build a WordPress plugin. And maybe a little bit more actually, because some things you don't actually have to have. But you'll see this one actually has it nested under INC folder. So from the other version, that Holy Grail version, It's actually a little bit higher up, but just to let you know that there's a slight difference. Yep. So if you needed to not have an admin, you can actually remove that. If you don't need to have more of a public part to your plugin, you can remove it. It's simple. But the thing is, when you use this version of the plugin, you will have to go through and change out placeholder spots because it doesn't have that fun little form in the front end that automatically does that for you. Of course, you can automate it, we're coders, we can automate things, right? But in the end, if you need to do it by hand, it takes like maybe 5 minutes. It's really not that long to actually change out those little placeholders. But you know what? Automate that if you really want to use this type of plugin. So this boilerplate has this core folder in it. And this core folder is the main brain that really makes it a WordPress plugin. Everything else is optional to some degree, but this has everything that'll help you make it a WordPress plugin. There is a way to activate the plugin. So if you don't know about WordPress, once you install, pretty much upload the folder of your content to a WordPress site, you hit activate and that turns the plugin on. And so when that happens, it runs any code that you have in here. And this would be a great place to have if you want to make a custom post type and piggyback off of the database structure that WordPress already has. You can actually even add in here ways to create your own databases because it is a MySQL database in the back end. You can actually create your own if you feel the need to actually go in your own route, which that's what I tend to do. It just creates a cleaner database structure. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff in here. You can add a folder. Let's say your system, optimizes images for some reason, and you want a folder to have them somewhere. So this is where you set everything up, when you get things going. And unfortunately, if someone deactivates your plugin, which let's hope they don't, you can actually do a lot of cleanup work here. If you need to remove like cron jobs from running, if you needed to clean up, you were cleaning up temp files when someone uploaded a file and you need to clean them out on the daily or hourly, and you don't need that plugin, you don't need that cron job because they deactivate your plugin. Well, here's a good way for you to, deactivate, make sure you clean up your stuff and make sure that you don't leave too much behind. Even though some plugins, they may not actually delete everything until they, sad face, uninstall your plugin. But you may want to leave some stuff behind if you are actually only deactivated because they may be testing things out. They may actually be seeing if whose plugin is the problem with my site because my site's unhappy after I've done an update, or for some reason it's just gone haywire. You have a bad plugin. So that's where they troubleshoot by deactivating and reactivating plugins. So that's where you want to keep that in mind. But in the end, all this stuff is great housekeeping for your plugin, and you keep someone else's site happy. What's also great, if you notice, there's actually a lot of great documentation in here of saying, this is what this file does. If you need more information, here's a link. This is what it means. So it's just a lot of stuff of like, hey, here's a file for you. This is what to use it for. Here's what should go here. It's just a lot of great information. Now you might wonder, all right, so I need to put actual information on the site, right? I like some functionality to this plugin. And that's where hooks come into play. And hooks are a way to integrate into the WordPress ecosystem. They have spots in there for you to actually plug your functionality where you want to put it, outside of actually changing the core of WordPress itself. Because once WordPress gets updated, your code would get completely stripped out if you just change the core. So that's where, no. Don't put your code there. Put your code into a plugin. Keep it all in one area. Also, there's a lot of functionalities that you can do and templates, like if you want to add something into the header and the footer and certain areas, that's where hooks come into play. You can actually insert your custom feature, your custom code, your extra little spice to make it customized. It's all there for you to use. And what's great is, also with hooks, you can actually create new endpoints for their REST API. So if you need your JavaScript to talk to a specific API to then actually put into the MySQL database, it's there for you. It's that easy. What also is awesome is shortcodes. If you don't know what shortcodes are, they are pretty much what it sounds like. It's just a little bit of code. It's like, here we have this little snippet of code. Here's a little tag, and I put it into some HTML, and I wanted to do this certain thing when someone puts that tag into a page. That's what a shortcode is. And to create a shortcode, it's just simply adding one line, and suddenly you have the functionality there for them to use. It's just as simple as that. Just using hooks to plug in your information into the website. You might want to think like, hey, I want to add some extra checks or extra brain to this area, right? Into maybe WooCommerce, let's say. Let's just say you're going to ship t-shirts to people around the world, but if someone includes a PO box, you're like, no, sorry, I don't ship to PO boxes. And so if someone comes to you with that, it's simple as creating a function that hooks up to the validation of a shipping address within WooCommerce and add that extra check and say, yep, no, sorry, even though WooCommerce loves PO boxes, I don't. I just don't care for them. I know people are biased, but that happens. Some people don't want to ship to PO boxes. And so it's very, very simple. So you think, okay, so I have a way to add little snippets for people to add to code to their own pages. I have a way to, manage my plugin. Fantastic. That's awesome. But, what if I want to like show some information? What if I need information from the administrator of the site? What if I want to actually show the stuff to the people on the front end? Well, that's where they separated the admin area from the front end in this code. Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry. There's also localization. Did I mention that? Yeah, there's actually a way for you to actually localize so anyone around the world can actually use your plugin. It's built right in. There's a file specifically already in there, set up ready for you to go. You don't have to do a thing. Well, you do have to transcode your words into common other words, but it's there. It's possible. All right, let me loop back to that admin front end thing. What's great is that they've actually snipped out the admin side, because in WordPress there is an admin side to a website, so all the administrative stuff. And there's actually a public front end, which I'm going to call a front end because that's how I think of it. And that's where you can actually have two different spots to actually to integrate with. And so with the admin area, it's fantastic because they've actually, instead of having it all lumped into one and have to figure out, is this an admin? Is this a learner? You don't have to. It'll actually chunk out, here's all the stuff that you're going to have for the admin. You have some JavaScript that you want to use specifically for the admin, some CSS, you have specific views, you have specific brains, in other words, some classes to actually, hook up to the views. It's all there. It's all ready for you to use. And if you want, because it just has views in here, if you want to actually build out more, you can add some controllers, you can add some model classes, you can add database stuff. It's so open, ready for you to use. It's not like I'm going to add a whole bunch of stuff and you better use it, you have to use it. No, 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 it's the bare minimum. So you can add on top of this some MVC capabilities. And if you wanted to simply add in a simple setting just for an admin to put in, let's say a API key, or just to put in their name or something that's really small. I mean, this is pretty lean that you can get that done pretty quick. It's pretty nice. And then like the front end, it's the same way. So it's not like it's like I have to learn the front end to be different than the admin. No, it's all the same, And it's open to what you wanted to do. So easy peasy, right? Easy peasy, fresh and squeezy. And of course, sometimes you gotta have a little love in both areas. So the admin and learner both have the need for the same kind of functionality, like connecting to a database. Maybe you want all the core database information, all that stuff to be in one central area. That's possible. If you have helper functions, let's say you always have the same kind of functions that you use commonly between both admin and learner. Admin and front end. That's possible as well. You can put anything in here that's common between them both. And there's also actually a libraries folder. So if you have external stuff like, hey, I need to create a PDF from my stuff and send it out, and you just plug in a PDF library and there you go. So there's a folder and a structure and organization for everything. It keeps it nice and clean and nice and lean. It's pretty nice. All right, so you may be thinking, how can we make it better? And everybody wants to make it better, right? Everyone's like, yeah, that's good and all, but I like to make it better. So how can you make it better? Especially when you have a variety of clients who all want their own plugin, their own needs. You're pretty much becoming a plugin factory because you just know how to do plugins now. And so you're like, okay, you get a plugin, you get a plugin, and you get a plugin. Everyone gets a plugin. But what if you wanted to streamline your work? What if you wanted some additional technology on top of it that these plugins or these boilerplates don't have, right? That's where maybe you automate things. Maybe you add a little workflow to change out those name structures. Because you'll see in here where it says WP plugin name. Well, that's not your plugin name, right? You got to switch those out. So why don't you automate that, right? Maybe you put the stuff in Git and manage everything through Git. So I mean, there's ways to keep everything automated, up to date. So it has a lot of potential, and that's what's great. It's bare bones, right? It's the bare minimum of what you need for a plugin. But also, maybe you have other technology you want to use. Maybe you want to use like Webpack or Gulp or Grunt, or maybe, a small child. Well, okay, maybe not a small child. But if you wanted to, like, say, optimize your images for the web, because that's key, you can't necessarily upload a whole 300 dpi image and hopefully that'll download fast on a mobile device. You gotta optimize it. So maybe you add into your whole system a way that it automatically sends it to a place that actually optimizes your images for you. Maybe you want to use Sass, because I love a little Sass. I'm a little sassy. So you want to use some variables in your CSS. You want to use object-oriented CSS. Yeah, so you want to add some Sass. And you notice there was no Sass in there. So I'd have to add in some Sass to make sure that every time I put a plugin that I get my little Sass going on and make it very functionable. And I can easily switch out variables and colors and fonts, and it just makes it easier to manage. Maybe you want to add a linter to this because you're using more of a JavaScript framework with this instead of just PHP. And so you want to make sure that you're not making some errors, you're not putting bugs in there, you want to style it just right, you want to use tabs instead of spaces because people should use tabs versus spaces. But there's a lot of possibilities with this, with a boilerplate, because it keeps it really lean to do what you want to do. It's not going to be choosy in terms of, like, I'm sorry, you got to use Sass, you can't use less. Or, I'm sorry, this is the way you have to write your JavaScript. That's just the way it goes. No, it's the bare minimum. It keeps you to do what you need to do to make a WordPress plugin, and then you make it to do what you want to do. If you need to build a full-blown plugin, you can do it. If you want to keep it really small, you can do it. There's a lot of possibility. What's awesome, though, is that there's boilerplates out there that actually use JavaScript UI frameworks. So if you want to use Vue.js, it's there. If you want to use React.js, I'm just going to put all into one word, it's there too. There's a React.js boilerplate plugin out there for you. If you want to use AngularJS, that's too. You can use a whole JavaScript UI framework instead of doing a whole PHP whatnot that you can do on the front end. It's all there for you. And also, if you didn't remember, there's a REST API, so it's all there. You can build a full wonderful WordPress plugin to your heart's content. It's just mind-boggling how open it is for you to do anything. Because in the end, it fits all shapes and sizes. If you just need a small little thing, it's there for you. If you need a full-blown, you're going to make a whole new e-commerce solution for someone, go for it, man. It's there for you, man. It's all there for you. So it's a greater starter point for a WordPress project. If you have features outside of what a WordPress core does, or what a theme already has, or if there's no plugin out there that you're either reliable or that you want to use, or that you want to just you just want to make it because, everyone just wants to play with code, right? I love playing with code. Don't you love playing with code? It's just what needs to happen. So in the end, you just make it to be what you want it to be. So that's WordPress plugin boilerplates all in a nutshell. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter. And if you want these slides, it does have some information on there. Just go to, that URL that's dead on this page, blah, 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 blah. Just don't try to click on it. It probably won't work. It's all there for you. So, do you guys got any questions? Ooh, questions. Caldo Creations, right on it. Thank you. All right. Any tips on keeping a WordPress child theme or a WordPress site working fast? I experience very slow site loading times. So, a WordPress child theme, it depends on the theme that you're using, that your child is inheriting from. Because if it's not a quality theme, then there's not, you have to get a quality theme. And there's a lot of great quality ones out there, and there's a lot of even quality ones that actually have page builders in them, so you don't have to do a lot of code if you didn't want to. But you can even have a boilerplate for a theme and start from a bare minimum theme to get to where you want to go. Otherwise, working fast, there's always the need to add a caching. Caching is always a thing. Do a CDN, especially for your DNS, because that's also a thing that could be slowing it down. Minifying JavaScript, CSS, your images need to be optimized. There's a lot of factors that go into play when you actually need to think about how fast your site's going. Hopefully that answered the question. Have you ever used WordPress before? Oh yeah, here's the straw point, which I doesn't seem to have much in there. Sorry, let's see, is it on here? I don't see it. Boop, boop, boop. Well, I'm sure you've guys heard about WordPress. I'm sure you've heard about that it's been hacked. But if you keep things up to date, it's actually a quite fun place to play, especially if you need to build a website fast. Ah, pretty exciting to see that they have a REST API now. I know it's actually been in the works for like I think at least 2 or 3 years. I think in the past year and a half, it's actually been quite nicely put together and ready for actual use, because for a while there it was a bit new, version 1. What do you expect? So there's a lot of opportunity. People actually build a lot of React.js front ends on them now. It's kind of exciting times for WordPress because they are changing things left and right and growing upon it and making it something that's more of a common website that you see nowadays. It's just a great place to have fun and make websites. Let's see if we got anything else going. Oh, here's another one. Mr. Demon Wolf. Where could I get this plugin template? Been waiting to find a good template for a while. So yes, if you go to blah blah blah, I'd go to not that one, not that one. Yeah. If you have the slides, you can probably find it. 1 sec. Almost there. Getting there. All right, we're there. Go to MaryJoStaebler.com/WPPB. That's the one I recommend using. I would build upon it. Personally, I would be adding Sass to it and some other things to make it streamlined. But this is a great starter spot because it has namespacing, it has auto loading. It's a lot less work than having to add your prefix to every class and every function. It's just mind-boggling to have to do that. But it's been there. But PHP is better now. We have namespaces, we have auto loading. It's all good. Question from Flight Wizard: how many plugins have you created, and which one is your favorite? So I think I've built maybe 3 or 4 now. I've just recently kind of gotten into building WordPress plugins. My favorite right now, I built a game for a local client. She's been trying for 2 years to make her game be online. And it's not like it's a sophisticated game. It's actually straightforward in terms of coding, but unfortunately she just didn't have the right person in place yet. And so I used a plugin to actually streamline that whole process, and it helps people understand how using the right words when you think of things or think about life or say things really affects how you feel inside. So if you really want to help your self-esteem, you realize which words to use and which ones not to use and improve your self-esteem. It's great because she helps young kids actually learn that, okay, what they're thinking or what they've been taught actually influences them and what they choose to do. So if they just change the way they think, they can actually make their lives better. Ooh, that was a little heavy, wasn't it? Sorry. Pixelogic Dev. What's awesome, Mary? Great job. I can speak. What's awesome? Great job, Mary Jo. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nimoi. I feel like it's about time to give WordPress another shot. It is. I know. You know what? I had a long talk with myself. I'm like, Mary Jo, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Trying to do everything from scratch when these people, they have budgets. They're not that much. They can't do it from scratch. And so that's when I'm like, okay, let me take off my fancy C# and Angular hat and then start trying to use WordPress. And I started digging into WordPress and I learned farther and farther along. And at that point, they actually had a REST API and I'm like, okay, now we can make some websites. This is going to be some fun. So yeah, definitely give WordPress a try. It's awesome. Any other questions? When you're finished, you're ready to go back to Fritz. I want to thank you all. I want to thank the people behind this whole scenario, this whole conference. They've been fantastic, and I hope you guys are having a great day. And you guys, I will see you around. Come check me out Tuesdays, Thursdays,